Okay, welcome back. It's been a while since we made a video. So anyway, I thought I just finished this figure, carving this figure, so I thought we'll make a video of me painting it. Hopefully here soon we're going to get back in gear again and start doing some more, figures where you do it from the beginning to the end. Pick up the pace a little here. Okay? Another thing that we're trying today is I had a piece of dark cardstock, and I thought, well, gee whiz, what if we just put this behind this as I paint, and that will alleviate all the clutter that's back in the back there. So anyway, that's, boy, I sure say that a lot, don't I? So anyway, sorry about that. I'm old, but it's okay. So what I did was I took it and I cut it in two by mistake. I should have just left it alone. I cut it in two, brought one of the pieces over here and held it. Gee, it looks so great. Why in the hell did I go cut the thing in half when I could have doubled the area? So I went back and taped it back together. So what I've done here is I always start painting the head first. So what I've done here is I've laid out the colors I'm going to use to paint the head. That way I don't have to shift this thing around, reaching around the back here, trying to get the color that I need. I've picked up some viewers from around the world, especially Britain. I sent a invite request to several of the British Facebook groups that are on there, and got a response, and they allowed me to join them. And I've gotten, on another group, I've gotten interest all the way over to Bangkok and some in the Middle East. So what I thought I'd do here was just go over how I paint a figure, okay? In case they haven't seen my videos before. Some of them have, but a lot of them I'm sure haven't. So anyway, so let's just disassemble this fella. I've carved the feathers. They're all ready to go. I've got them super glued together. They just need to be painted. So I'm going to set those aside. I've made his earrings here. They're made out of just a piece of ducting, that people use for roofs when they're redoing the roof and everything. I pound them with a ball peen hammer to get that surface effect on them, and then I just used wire that I picked up down at Walmart to make the little catches here. Set those aside. I've carved, take his head off, as what we're going to paint. Take off his little rosette here. I always do these things separate because I like to build strength into my pieces. Wood's a fragile medium. And I made a little pouch here for him to keep his necessaries. That'll come off. This is just, again, wire that I bent. Set that aside, and I have my body here, okay? It's all done. So the head is what we're going to do. So let me get the phone out of the way here. So the first thing I'm going to do is find me one of my holding sticks. Now these things here are just a piece of broom handle that I have laying around here, and I drilled a hole in the end and cut off the head of a sheep nettle, or a what's the word? Cheap screw. Cheap screw you can buy down at Lowe's or any place. And epoxied it into that, okay? And then I drill a hole at the bottom of the fella's neck, and that allows me to screw this in there a little ways and gives me something to hold on to while I paint, okay? So the first thing I do when I start painting is I got me a thing full of water here. is soak this thing down. Kind of shiny now, but that'll go away as the water soaks in. Now you'll notice right away when you wet it down is look at the difference in colors between the two of these. Now this color here, this is going to be the color when you varnish. I mean, the wood will take this color again, even though it's dried out after you painted it. When you varnish the figure, it's going to go back to this color and it'll stay that way. So you have to allow that color when you're painting. And to our benefit, this color is pretty much almost the same as this color here, which we're going to add to make our flesh color. So that works in our favor. But sometimes it don't if you paint something else, so you just got to remember what's going to happen when that wood's either wet or varnished, okay? So you set that back over here. All right, see, all the wood is soaked in now. Shine's gone. So, to make my flesh color, I use red iron oxide, and this thing here is just about finished. There's still a little in there. And being as I'm as cheap as I am, I use it all up. I've even added water to that to strengthen it, stretch it out. That's the word I'm looking for. This is, well, they call it Dorado Antigua, antique gold. It's just yellow ochre, Jude tells you. Need a little bit of that. Set that there. This is brown asphaltum. Remember that word. That's a good, really rich brown color. Asphalt to me is black, actually. I'm going to put that up here because it ain't going to take very much of that. If I can get it out of there, come out of there. That's plenty. So I'll set that back there. And that's going to be my flesh color. So get me a big brush here. These brushes, go out and spend some money and buy you some good brushes. Don't just go down to Walmart and buy some cheap thing hanging on there that you're going to get a whole set of them where none of them are any good really. Buy some good brushes and they'll last you years and years and years, and these have. So, pull out some red here and then pull out some yellow. Put some brown in there. That's about what I'm looking for. And then I just paint it on. And I just paint everything. Don't worry about slopping it over on the other areas like the hair and stuff, because it won't hurt anything. I see a little problem there. Have to correct. And as always happens, you never mix up enough of it. Right there. See there? Right there, that little white spot. That's where some glue got on there. Find me a knife blade here. Let's see if I can get that off of there. There we go. I'm just going to use that extra color to deepen these other colors here. I love painting Indians. We live here in Oklahoma, so we got Indians all over the place. We actually live on Cherokee tribal land. Our house was part of the original land, or the land of our house sits on is part of the original Cherokee allotment back when they were all moved over here from over on the eastern United States. Okay, so got that done now. I'm going to take a little red, not so much yellow, and we're going to paint his nose a little redder. Now I'm not doing this because he's been hitting the hard stuff. I'm doing this because his nose protrudes out farthest from any other point in his body, so it picks up sun more than those other areas. And the same goes for his top of his cheeks. Now the beauty of painting on a wet piece of wood is your colors don't ever form a hard line. See, as I paint it, even all the lines are soft where they've bled together. That's great. That works in your favor. Actually need a little more red there. Looks good. Okay, now, midnight blue. When you're buying colors, if you use the colors like I do, make sure you buy a tube of this. This is the perfect color for what I'm going to do on his face, but it's also the perfect color for blue jeans, coffee pots, cast iron cookware, which I carve a lot of in my scenes and figures. So I'm just going to put out just a tiniest bit right there. Well, that's actually about 5 times more than I actually need. Give me a smaller brush here. Just pull out a little bit of that. See that? How much I pulled out there? That's probably all I'm going to need. Because what I'm going to do is just shade the areas around his cheeks. Sort of giving him a 5 o'clock shadow. Whoa, that's way too much. So we'll thin that down. And as I apply this, I'm sort of erasing a lot of the color that we put on her face just a minute ago. Don't forget underneath his chin. Actually, I think I erased a little too much. Well, I'll put a little bit more back on here. And again, as long as your wood's wet, it's going to accept this new color. So that looks pretty good. Look at it close. You don't want the blue too heavy. It will make him look like he's got 5 o'clock shadow. I see a little area there that needs to be fixed. Right there. And you know what that is? That's where I had something on my hand or fingers from when I attached these braids, because they were separate. And I do that because I want to build, again, I want to build strength into my piece. I don't want it breaking. And wood's a fragile medium. And when you get out here, to where the grain is thin. If it's going to break, it's going to break right here every time, or here. So I redo that piece and run that grain this way instead of this way to give it as much strength as I can. So I'm going to have to get something and cut that off. That's sharp. Hang on here just a minute. Okay, back here again. So I'm going to try to get rid of that real gently. Don't want to take off too much. Just enough to get rid of it. And I'm going to match it up. Oh boy, that soaked in there, didn't it? Damn. That's all the more reason to always make sure your hands are clean when you're whittling. Stop every once in a while and go wash your hands. When I first started making these videos, I told everybody that when I'm making them, you're going to see the whole thing, mistakes and all. I don't know if this, well, I guess this is a mistake. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to leave that alone, because if I touch it up too much, the colors won't match when it dries out. But once it dries out and once it's varnished, then I can go back in and touch it up. So that's what I will do. Okay? All right, so now what do we need? Get me another brush here. Now we're going to paint the hair. And for the hair, Indians have very dark hair, black hair. So I use a color called licorice. I don't use black. I use this color, which is black, but it has something in it, I think a little bit of white. I'm just saying that, I'm not really sure. But it's not black. It's licorice. It's an opaque color now. Black by itself is a transparent color, at least in these colors. Come out of there. Well, it gets down in there. This is a thick color. Come on. There we go. See, it looks like black, but it's not black, it's a transparent black. Now notice that little hook on the end of my brush. See it there? You can see it. A lot of people say, "Oh darn, my brushes, they're not any good anymore. They got that damn thing on the end of it. I can't paint a straight line." Well, don't throw them away. That's one of the best tools you can use when painting, is to have a brush that has that hook on there. And all my brushes have that, because they're so old that these little hooks, just, it's a natural thing, they just curve. So it allows you to get in spots that you wouldn't normally be able to get. Just like that right there. I couldn't do that if my brush was this way. So what we're doing here is I'm just outlining the dark areas on his head, around his head. At that little point. Makes this job really easy. So I'll go ahead and do this, and then we'll come back and go to the next step, okay? Okay, I got everything outlined, so what I'm doing now is I switched over to my bigger brush, and I'm just flooding the color onto these areas without worrying about going over into areas that I don't want to go over in. Lots of water. Lets those colors really soak in. And then when they're soaking in, they're also picking up the natural color of that wood. We probably can't see it, but it's there. And using a lot of water, you hope that you get everything covered. But there will be spots that you can't, or you'll miss, just little bitty spots. Holidays, my friend used to call them. But once the paint is dry, you'll have to come back and touch them up. I miss that old guy. He lived up the road from us. Lou is his name. A neat old guy, ex-U.S. Marshal out in western Oklahoma. Interesting guy. He used to come down here and sneak a cigarette because his wife didn't want him smoking. He only had one lung anyway. But he was a neat old guy. See there, look at that, forgot that. Got lots of paint, use it up. See right there, there's a holiday right there. They'll show up. You won't get them all. They'll come back. There's one there. Two of them there. Just constantly spin it around. Looks good. We'll get rid of that. Get rid of that. Now I'm going to sit here and let this dry for a little bit before we do the eyes, okay? So we'll be back here in just a second. Okay, so right now we have two areas we still have to paint. We have to paint his braids and his eyes. So let's paint his braids first. Now to speed this process along a little, I went ahead and with a hairdryer dried his face off to get ready to paint his eyes, because I like to paint his eyes when it's dry, because I don't want the colors to flow out like they would if it was wet. Looky there. See, there's a holiday right there. See it up there? Try it up there. Little bitty thing. Well, you want to touch that up. Let's turn it around and see if we can find some more. There's a couple little bitty ones right there. We'll have to come back and get those. Okay, so what we're going to do, I'm going to use that brush. You got lots of red here, so we're just going to use it up. and paint his braids. Now, because I use that hair dryer, this is dry now, so paint acts different. See the hard line? It won't crawl. It just creates a hard line. Well, not with what we're doing now. It's not so important because we're in a specific area. So we don't want it to crawl like it would when we were doing facial colors. We just want to paint it. It's getting warm in here. It's supposed to get up to 90 something today. And then you got to consider that heat index. No one tells you the true temperatures anymore. They're all trying to scare the hell out of you by telling you the heat index. It's not the temperature that's going to kill you. It's that heat index. But there's only a heat index. Now the heat index, during the summer it's terrible. During the winter, they never tell you about it. There's still a heat index, but they won't tell you about the heat index because it works against what they try to do. What do? They tell you about the chill effect. Try to scare the hell out of you that way. When I grew up, I never heard anything about any heat index. It was either hot or cold. Look at that holiday just popped out of there. Sorry if I ramble along. It's just part of the painting process. Yeah, I do these braids separate, like I say, to make them strong. And to attach them, I use nails, little finishing nails. I drill a hole into the braid itself, which the nail runs down into the braid and on into the head. And then I epoxy those. And boy, these braids won't break, I'll tell you. They will not break. Right up here at the junction where one piece joins the other. I'm going to have to get me some more paint. I want to put the paint on there a little heavy to masquerade that joint. Oops. I think that bottle of paint is just about had it. And someone told me that they've discontinued that color, red iron oxide. I can't believe they did that. They never asked me. That's one of my favorite colors. I've bought so much of it over the year, you'd think they'd ask me, but they didn't. Look at that holiday again. like red iron oxide. Besides the color that I use to mix my flesh color, it's great. It's a great underpaint if you want to paint red, because red's a transparent color, and it looks kind of dead when you paint something on a piece of wood with my wet method because of that. It's looking good. So again, to speed the process, excuse me, Judy, get my hair dryer out of here. Okay, we've got his braids painted. Now I might come back a little later after I've looked at it for a while and deepen this red color with a more reddish color. But right at the moment it's fine. This color here is an Indian color. You know, they sort of mix it themselves until the traders came along, and then they gave them red cloth, dyed red cloth. But so sometimes you got to make an allowance. So what we have to do now to paint the eyes, you got to put this back together again in the position it's in. And I haven't decided whether to use this base or not. This is an old base. It's a piece of sycamore that my dad had. So I haven't decided. So anyway, with him on the base, what is he doing? That's what we have to, we're telling a story here with this ending. With him on the base, what is he doing? Well, he ain't definitely not looking that way. Let me put his feather in. Where are you? He's definitely not looking that way. He's looking over that way. Hmm? What? No. Judy says he's looking at the camera. No. She'd have to be down here somewhere. So anyway, he's looking over there. So what we're going to do is first we're going to paint the whites of his eyes. And I don't use white. I use this color here. It's called parchment. It's just sort of a off yellowish white, which is the perfect color for the eye. And to do that, I'm putting on my magnifiers here, because that's pretty close work. And find my little bitty brush. And here's the brush I used to start with and probably to finish with too. And the carving's dry, and you'll notice also, notice the colors, how flat they are now. Well, they're going to stay that way because the wood is dry. They're going to stay that way until we varnish it, and then that washed, wet look comes back again, and it becomes permanent. If you've ever seen an artist after he's finished his painting, the last step he does is to varnish that painting. And if you ever watched it, he'll pour a little bit of that varnish out on the canvas, and then he'll take his brush and he'll drag it out. And when you see the varnish flow over an area and next to it is an unvarnished area, you can see the difference. What happens to those colors? They just become beautiful. They're no longer flat. They're alive. That's the best way to put it. So anyway, to paint these eyes, take his head off here. And whatever you do, don't go put your carving in boiled linseed oil, please. God, that's the worst thing you can do. Get situated around here. So anyway, I'm going to just paint out of my lid here. Just get out a little. Just with my littlest brush. This is a liner brush. And I use a Pyrotechnic pen to accentuate the creases and everything. It just works great. But what I don't want to do is I don't want to slop white over those black lines. So very carefully. I put the paint in there. And this little liner brush is perfect for that. I'm going to get me a little drop of paint because there's a little mark right in there. I'm going to fill it up just like that. There you go. And if you lay your brush down in there, oh, that's crap. If you work fast, you can get that out of there. Just like that. Watch out, Judy, I need to dry it out. Crisis averted. Just lay your brush flat and you just push it back in there just a little bit. Not a lot, just a little bit. There you got wet, so it's absorbing a lot of the paint, where the other side is dry, and it didn't take any. So there, we got that. All right. See, one little area that needs to be taken care of. There. Okay, got that done. All right, now, when you're painting the pupil, remember, the figure is small. In real life, if he was standing this far from you, The only color you would see, unless he has extremely pale blue eyes or pale green eyes, the only color you're going to see is black. He's not going to have a dark ring around these beautiful blue eyes with a dark center with a highlight on it. Don't paint that kind of eye if you want a really good looking eye. All you want is black. That will be best. See if I can't find a photograph and I'll show you what I'm talking about. Let's go into some of my pictures here. Too many pictures. Come on, where's a good Indian picture? Well, there's two humans. Look at their eyes. What color are they? You can't tell what color they are. They're just two black spots. Judy here, she has a little highlight on her eye. That's okay. I've got a highlight on my eye if you look real close, but they're black. Now here's an Indian. He has black. That's all you see, just like these humans up here. There's a steer, just black with a highlight, and that highlight is natural. It's not painted. I'm going to show you how to do that. Cowboy, black. I just don't do that. There's Judy. Now that's a close-up picture where you can see the green. Well, we're not close up with this guy. You know, you're never going to get this close to him to be equal to Judy. This is how close you'd have to be. Good looking, wasn't she? There she is again. A little different kind of situation, but what color are now? The other colors are gone now. The only a friend of mine just popped up and gave me a comment on this carving. Look at her eyes. What colors do you see? Black with a natural highlight. That was my son. Notice the color of his eyes. Black. When I see, I think that's enough. When I see a lot of these carvings, people just go overboard and they paint doll eyes on their pieces, and I don't understand. Okay, so he's going to be looking that way. So we're going to get just a little bit of black on my brush here, and we're going to put it right there. And we're going to put it right there. Now that look is kind of a whoa. He's looking over and saying, whoa, what the hell is that? I don't want that kind of look. So we're going to change it. Let's do this other eye now. What? Hmm? What? Looks like what? Judy just said that this carving looks like our dog. God, I think I don't know. I might have to be
The
looking.
expression. Oh,
Be looking for a new videographer. I'm going to leave that alone. Now, if I put eyebrows, dark eyebrows on him as the same color as his hair, I think it would be too much. I'm going to have to look at it for a while to determine whether I need to do that. I don't think I need to do that because I can see the shadow here of his eyebrow. To me, that's enough to carry the facial features. So I'd probably just leave it alone. But what I will do is I'm going to come back and I'm going to darken the white of his eyes because that's just too bright. When people get old or, advanced in years, I won't say old, the white of their eyes becomes yellower, jaundice looking almost. So I'm probably going to come back and with a real light brown kind of tint that just a little bit to get away from that real bright. I keep hearing his voice. Real bright white that's on there. So anyway, that's going to finish this video. I think it's long enough. So if this has helped you out, thank you very much. You're entirely welcome. I appreciate that. If you think it was worth anything, I've got a little donate box down there at the bottom of this post. You can give me a couple dollars or $1 or $2, buy me a cup of coffee or something to show your appreciation for our work together here. Or you're under no obligation, believe me. You're going to get this video for nothing anyway. So that's going to do it in this video. If you haven't subscribed, go ahead and fill out the subscribe box. That way when I make a new post, you're on there and you'll get notified that it's there. And you can get over there and see it. So until then, we'll come back here in the next video and we'll start working on his body. All right? Till then, I'll talk to you later.